Hello everyone, this is the 5th Epical Revelation Fellowship. I'm Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and I'm here with my wife, Reverend Diane Paul, and Millie and Rodney tonight. We're going to study paper 57, continue on paper 57. We're on section 6, the solar system stage, the planet forming era, and that's on page 657.4 or 5761. Alright. Let's say a little prayer and we'll get started. Father, thank you for such a beautiful day today, and pray that you'll bless this meeting today and keep our minds and hearts open that we might learn something and share it with others. Be with me tonight. I'm awfully tired tonight after working all day. Please bless us, and watch over us, and give us the wisdom to make it through this paper tonight. We ask in your Son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, section 6. Millie, would you like to start out for us tonight?
I can do that. 6. The solar system stage, the planet-forming era. Subsequent to the birth of the solar system, a period of diminishing solar disgorgement ensued. Decreasingly, for another 500,000 years, the sun continued to pour forth diminishing volumes of matter into surrounding space. But during these early times of erratic orbits, when the surrounding bodies made their nearest approach to the sun, the solar parent was able to recapture a large portion of this meteoric material.
So it would go out and then it'd come back in, then go out and come back in, right? And this is how the planets formed. Okay? Rodney.
The planets nearest the sun were the first to have their revolutions slowed down by tidal friction. Such gravitational influences also contribute to the stabilization of planetary orbits while acting as a brake on the rate of planetary axial revolution, causing a planet to revolve ever slower until axial revolution ceases, leaving one hemisphere of the planet always turned toward the sun or larger body, as is illustrated by the planet Mercury and by the moon, which always turns the same face toward Urantia.
Isn't that interesting? So that's why the moon always has its the same face towards the Earth.
And Mercury toward the sun.
And Mercury toward the sun. That's right. So the back side of Mercury always is dark, right? All right. Dear?
Roger, have you done something with your microphone? You're
No.
a little muffled. Just slightly muffled.
Really?
Could be my ears, but I do have my hearing.
Oh, I agree.
Pardon me, Rodney?
Can you detect it, Rodney?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I don't. It's probably our connection through Skype, because like I said, I could not get it to connect tonight for some reason.
Okay.
Do y'all?
I can hear you. It's just a little foggy, a little muffled.
Yeah,
Okay.
good enough.
All right. Let's see if it gets to bother y'all. Let me know, and we'll redial. I'd rather not if we don't have to. If y'all can stand it, we'll leave it alone.
I can stand it.
Okay.
I can stand it too. When the tidal frictions of the moon and the earth become equalized, the earth will always turn the same hemisphere towards the moon, and the day and month will be analogous. In length about 47 days. When such stability of orbits is attained, tidal frictions will go into reverse action, no longer driving the moon farther away from the earth, but gradually drawing the satellite toward the planet. And then in that far distant future, when the moon approaches to within about 11,000 miles of the earth, the gravity action of the latter will cause the moon to disrupt. And this tidal gravity explosion will shatter the moon into small particles, which may assemble about the world as rings of matter resembling those of Saturn, or may be gradually drawn into the earth as meteors.
Oh, that's interesting. in the future.
Well, while we're in light and life, I guess.
Yeah, probably. Okay. And this is a illustration. This is the moon today, 238,908 miles, right? And when it gets to 11,000 miles, that's when the moon will shatter.
Man, that'll be close.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Imagine that.
Right, this is another illustration of what it'll look like. The Earth will actually have a ring around it and have moon particles just like Saturn. Very interesting. All right. If space bodies are similar in size and density, collisions may occur. I'm trying to keep the cat from drinking my ginger ale. But if two space bodies of similar density are relatively unequal in size, then if the smaller progressively approaches the larger, this disruption of the smaller body will occur, and when the radius of its orbit becomes less than 2½ times the radius of the larger body, collisions among the giants of space are rare indeed. But these gravity tidal explosions of lesser bodies are quite common. Put this right in here when you leave it on. Thank you. All right. Millie, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Shooting stars occur in swarms because they are fragments of larger bodies of matter which have been disrupted by tidal gravity exerted by nearby and still larger space bodies. Saturn's rings are the fragments of a disrupted satellite. One of the moons of Jupiter is now approaching dangerously near the critical zone of tidal disruption, and within a few million years it will will either be claimed by the planet or will undergo gravity tidal disruption. The fifth planet of the solar system of long ago traversed an irregular orbit, periodically making closer and closer approaches to Jupiter until it entered the critical zone of gravity tidal disruption. It was swiftly fragmented and became the present-day cluster of asteroids.
I like that.
You know, I thought that asteroid belt was between Earth and Mars, but it's between Mars and Jupiter.
Yeah.
So that was the fifth planet on the inner set of planets.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
And they don't say much about it, you know.
No, not at all.
Whether there were humans there once or not.
Well, probably wasn't, Rodney. If it was that close to destruction, it was probably not even considered as a planet, because these mechanical force organizers and mechanical physical controllers and power centers know what happens to planets.
Yeah, they can see enough in the future.
They can see enough in the future what's about to happen, so they wouldn't populize the planet.
Exactly.
If they knew that was going to happen. Wouldn't be on the list anyway. You want to take the next slide, Rodney?
Me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. 4 billion, right?
Yeah.
Years ago, witnessed the organization of the Jupiter and Saturn systems, much as observed today, except for their moons, which continued to increase in size for several billions of years. In fact, all of the planets and satellites of the solar system are still growing as a result of continued meteoric captures.
It's interesting, isn't it?
They get us with these big numbers.
That's right.
3,500,000 years ago.
500 million.
What did I say? Million? I
Thousand.
meant billion. Did I say thousand?
3,500,000,000.
Let's try that one more time. 350. 3,500,000,000 years ago, the condensation nucleuses of the other 10 planets were well formed, and the cores of most of the moons were intact, though some of the smaller satellites later united to make the present-day larger moons. This age may be regarded as the era of planetary assembly.
Only 3,500,000,000 years ago. Just a little bit.
So like Trump trying to balance his checkbook.
That's right. 3 billion years ago, the solar system was functioning much as it does today. Its members continued to grow in size as space meteors continued to pour in upon the planets and their satellites at a prodigious rate. Millie, your turn.
About this time, your solar system was placed on the physical registry of Nebadon and given its name, Monmesha.
Now this is one of the very few places in the book it actually tells the name of our solar system. Okay, so this is something you probably want to mark. It's called Monmesha. That's our local solar system.
I have it highlighted.
Yeah, it's in the registry of Nebadon, and it went on there 3 billion years ago, right?
Why do we call the book Urantia? I thought Urantia was the name of our planet.
It is.
Monmesha is the name of our
Solar system.
solar system. Okay.
Right, yeah. And actually, Urantia is put on the registry at a different time. The solar system went on first, though, okay?
That makes sense.
Yeah, and it gives you a different date for Urantia, okay? Rodney, would you take this one?
All right. 2,500,000,000 years ago, the planets had grown immensely in size. Urantia was a well-developed sphere, about 1/10 its present mass, and was still growing rapidly by meteoric
Accretion.
accretion.
Yeah. So it was about 1/10 its size, and all these meteors kept coming to it, right? And that's what kept growing the size of the planet over and over.
The nucleus.
The nucleus of the planet. That's right. So do you think the planet's hollow? Yeah, likely. Okay. So this just keeps going on and on and on. And we can see remnants of this all over the planet with large meteor areas, you know, that in the past where large meteors have hit us. Okay, your turn, dear.
All of this tremendous activity is a normal part of the making of an evolutionary world on the order of Urantia and constitutes the astronomic preliminaries to the setting of the stage for the beginning of the physical evolution of such worlds of space in preparation for the life adventures of time.
All right. It's all about evolution, right? 7, the meteoric era, the volcanic age, the primitive planetary atmosphere. That's a long title, isn't it? Okay, throughout these early times, the space regions of the solar system were swarming with small disruptive and condensation bodies. And in the absence of a protective combustion atmosphere, such space bodies crashed directly on the surface of Urantia. These insistent impacts kept the surface of the planet more or less heated, and this together with the increased action of gravity as the sphere grew larger began to set in operations those influences which gradually caused the heavier elements such as iron to settle more and more toward the center of the planet. Okay, Millie, would you take the next one, please?
2 billion, that's right, 2 billion years ago, the Earth began decidedly to gain on the Moon. Always had the planet been larger than its satellite, but there was not so much difference in size until about this time, when enormous space bodies were captured by the Earth. Urantia was then about 1/5 of its present size, and had become larger enough to hold the primitive atmosphere which had begun to appear as a result of the internal elements context between the heated interior and the cooling crust.
What's interesting about this, you know, if you were a science buff, you could make slides that shows each and every one of these progressive steps where Urantia, or Earth, came into being, right? And here we go, right? 2 billion years ago, and there's the Earth and there's the Moon, but the Earth is about 1/5 its size as it is today. Okay? So we kept growing and growing, eventually started developing an atmosphere. Alright, and this is an illustration of the size of the planets in relation to our Sun. Okay?
At that time or today?
This is today, I think. Alright, and here is the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and what's the last one? Neptune. That's right.
And they don't have Pluto on there?
Huh?
They do not have Pluto on there. It's not considered, it's considered a dwarf.
No. They don't. Alright. I think Rodney's up again.
I am.
Yeah.
Definite volcanic action dates from these times. The eternal heat of the Earth continued to be augmented by the deeper and deeper burial of the radioactive or heavier elements brought in from space by the meteors. The study of is more than 1 billion years old on its surface. The radium clock is your most reliable timepiece for making scientific estimates of the age of the planet, but all suggest materials open to your scrutiny are all derived from the Earth's surface and hence represent Urantia's comparatively recent acquirements of these elements.
Okay, let me read that last part of that sentence again, Rodney, because you zapped out on us there.
It blanked out twice.
Yeah.
Really? That's strange.
Making scientific estimates of the age of the planet, but all such estimates are too short because of the radioactive materials open to your scrutiny are all derived from the Earth's surface and hence represent Urantia's comparatively recent acquirement of these elements. You see what they're saying there? Because you're taking those from the surface, most of those elements are fairly recent, you know, earlier billions of years, right? Rather than the later billions of years, because it's what's hit the surface, right? All right. Now let me mention something about this picture we did look at of the planets earlier. I did not make these slides, and I'm no expert on the planets and all this, so there may be some missing and things like that. So, you know, just because it's not there doesn't mean it's not there.
Well, Pluto is considered a dwarf planet now. It's not large
Yeah.
enough to be considered a planet.
Yeah, but
Several years.
I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, we did get these slides from someone else. Okay, I think you're up here.
1,500,000,000 years ago, the Earth was 2/3 its present size, while the Moon was nearing its present mass. Earth's rapid gain over the Moon in size enabled it to begin the slow robbery of the little atmosphere which its satellite originally had.
So the Moon had some atmosphere, but it got sucked away by the Earth itself, right? Okay, volcanic action is now at its height. The whole Earth is a veritable fiery inferno, the surface resembling its earlier molten state before the heavier metals gravitated toward the center. This is the volcanic stage. Nevertheless, a crust consisting chiefly of the comparatively lighter granite is gradually forming. The stage is being set for a planet which can someday support life. Rodney, you see, this is the process we were talking about a little earlier on. All planets are going to be ready for life. It has to come up with pretty ideal conditions for that to happen.
Sounds like this is when Stone Mountain was born.
Yeah, probably so.
Right, yeah.
Millie, you're right.
The primitive planetary atmosphere is slowly evolving, now containing some water vapor, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen chloride. But there is little or no free nitrogen or free oxygen. The atmosphere of a world in the volcanic age presents a queer spectacle. In addition to the gases enumerated, it is heavily charged with numerous volcanic gases, and as the air belt matures with the combustible products of the heavy meteoric showers, which are constantly hurling in upon the planetary surface. I read that wrong. Such meteoric combustion keeps the atmospheric oxygen very nearly exhausted, and the rate of meteoric bombardment is still tremendous.
So it's still not ready to support life, right? All right. Rodney.
Presently, the atmosphere became more settled and cooled sufficiently to start precipitation of rain on the hot, rocky surface of the planet. For thousands of years, Urantia was enveloped in one vast and continuous blanket of steam. And during these ages, the sun never shone upon the Earth's surface.
Kind of reminds you of England, doesn't it? All right, dear.
Much of the carbon of the atmosphere was abstracted to form the carbonates of the various metals which abounded in the superficial layers of the planet. Later on, much greater quantities of these carbon gases were consumed by the early and prolific plant life.
Y'all notice I haven't commented on a lot of these paragraphs because really there's nothing.
They're just
Yeah,
fast. They're
it's
fast.
Just,
Yeah.
just fast, yeah. Even in the later periods, the continuing lava flows and the incoming meteors kept the oxygen of the air almost completely used up. Even the early deposits of the soon appearing primitive ocean contained no colored stones or shales. And for a long time after this ocean appeared, there was virtually no free oxygen in the atmosphere, and it did not appear in significant quantities until it was later generated by the seaweeds and other forms of vegetable lives. So important the ocean is to us, right? Millie, would you take the next one?
The primitive planetary atmosphere of the volcanic age affords little protection against the collisional impacts of the meteoric swarms. Millions upon millions of meteors are able to penetrate such an air belt and smash against the planetary crust as solid bodies. But as time passes, fewer and fewer prove large enough to resist the ever stronger friction shield of the oxygen-enriching atmosphere of the latter eras.
Like today, you know, something comes into the atmosphere, it gets burned up on the way to the earth, right? The oxygen consumes it, unless it's just really large. Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Crustal stabilization, the age of earthquakes, the world, ocean, and the first continent. 1 billion years ago is the date of the actual beginning of Urantia history. The planet had attained approximately its present size. At about this time, it was placed upon the physical registries of Nebadon and given its name Urantia.
Okay, see the difference? It was 3 billion years that the solar system was put on the registries. It was 1 billion years when the planet finally got put on the registries as a planet, and at that time it was named Urantia, right? Not Earth. Earth is what's on the ground, right? That's the dirt. Urantia is the actual name of the planet. Okay.
The atmosphere, together with incessant moisture precipitation, facilitated the cooling of the Earth's crust. Volcanic action early equalized internal heat pressure and crustal contraction, and as volcanoes rapidly decreased, earthquakes made their appearance as this epoch of crustal cooling and adjustment progressed.
The real geologic history of Urantia begins with the cooling of the Earth's crust sufficiently to cause the formation of the first ocean. Water vapor condensation on the cooling surface of the Earth, once begun, continued until it was virtually complete. By the end of this period, the ocean was worldwide, covering the entire planet to an average depth of over 1 mile. Water world, right? The tides were then in play, much as they are now observed. But this primitive ocean was not salty. It was practically a freshwater covering for the world. It's interesting, isn't it? In those days, most of the chlorine was combined with various metals, but there was enough in union with hydrogen to render this water faintly acid. Millie.
What happened that caused Urantia to be given a name? What facilitated that? What event?
Because it was fixing to have a planet emerge, a continent emerge, which made it in large water masses, especially fresh water, which makes it available for the life implantation beings to come down and implant life in the planet. When we have water and when you have land and an atmosphere, some kind of atmosphere that they can survive on, then it's time for life implantation. And that's when the...
But at that time it was still just water.
But it was still just water. That's right.
But they gave it a name.
But they could foresee this progress going along, Millie, and that it would soon be ready for life implantation. You see what I'm saying? That's what.
Next.
Yeah.
At the opening of this faraway era, Urantia should be envisaged as a water-bound world. Later on, deeper and hence denser lava flows came out upon the bottom of the present Pacific Ocean, and this part of the water-covered surface became considerably depressed. The first continental landmass emerged from the world ocean in compensatory adjustment of the equilibrium of the gradually thickening earth crust. Boy, explain that.
The titanic plates started to separate, Millie. Basically, there was earthquakes under the water, and because of the equilibrium of these earthquakes, they kept shifting and shifting and shifting. So the surface underneath the water went from a smoother surface to a more mountainous type surface. So it pushed part of the surface up to above the water level.
Okay, pushed the plates, the
plates,
crust of the earth.
The crust of the earth to the plates. And that includes what was in the Pacific Ocean, but it also includes all that, we're on an earthquake belt in Georgia here. You know that, don't you? And part of the mountains, like here in Georgia, are from this shifting of these plates. Okay, and that's how they came to be. All right, now also there's large valleys in the ocean, which looks like mountains and valleys underwater. That's also going on, right? And those are still there. All right. Let's see, who's up?
Hi.
Okay.
950 million years ago, Urantia presents the picture of one great continent of land and one large body of water, the Pacific Ocean. Volcanoes are still widespread and earthquakes are both frequent and severe. Meteors continue to bombard the Earth, but they are diminishing in both frequency and size. The atmosphere is clearing up, but the amount of carbon dioxide continues large. The Earth's crust is gradually stabilized.
Okay, y'all understand why there's just the Pacific Ocean, right? because there's only one landmass. And the Pacific goes all the way around the planet to the other side of the landmass, right? And the landmass will soon separate. All right?
In other words, the whole Earth is the Pacific Ocean with a big island.
That's right, big island, right? Huge island, right in the center of it, right? All right, here.
It was at about this time that Urantia was assigned to the system of Satania for planetary administration and was placed on the life registry of Norleshadek. Then began the administrative recognition of the small and insignificant sphere which was destined to be the planet whereon Michael would subsequently engage in the stupendous undertaking of mortal bestowal, would participate in those experiences which have since caused Urantia to become locally known as the world of the cross.
All this had to happen, right?
Of course, I don't think that they mean that they foresaw that Michael would come to this planet at that time.
No, that's not what they meant. It's what they meant is these things that happen eventually set the stage for that to happen, right? And what they're talking about, the system of Satania for the planetary administration, and was placed on the life registry for Norleshadek. The planet was an inhabitable planet, so it was put under the administration of Satania as one of the worlds of Satania, and also one of the worlds of Norleshadek, which is the constellation, right, that we're in. All right. 900 million years ago, that line looks like it's too far away from this, witnessed the arrival on Urantia of the first Satania scouting party sent out from Jerusalem to examine the planet and make a report on its adaptation for a life experiment station. So they sent out, what, life carriers to check it out, right? Scouts, right. This commission consisted of 24 members embracing life carriers, Leninondeck sons, Melchizedek, Seraphim, and other orders of celestial life having to do with the early days of planetary administration or organization and administration. So the life carriers went, the Leninondeck sons went, the Melchizedeks, and the Seraphim that would all eventually be assigned to administer the planet, right?
You know, I picture a big mothership.
Could be. We don't know. They didn't tell us how they got here, did they? All right. Millie, would you take the next one?
After making a painstaking survey of the planet, this commission returned to Jerusalem and reported favorably to the system sovereign, recommending that Urantia be placed on the Life Experiment Registry. Your world was accordingly registered on Jerusalem as a decimal planet, and the life carriers were notified that they would be granted permission to institute new patterns of mechanical, chemical, and electromobilization at the time of their subsequent arrival with life transplantation and implementation mandates.
Now, who's the system sovereign during this period of time?
System sovereign, would that be Melchizedek?
No, that'd be Lucifer.
Oh, that's right. Lucifer was still. We're way back.
Yeah, we're way back. So this is Lucifer was the system sovereign, right? And at this time, they approved our world as a decimal planet, which means they could tweak or modify the mechanical, chemical, and electrical mobilization when they come with the life implantation. So because we're a decimal planet, they can make modifications, and that's what causes our planet to be like it is. And that's also what causes some diseases and things like that that Adam and Eve would have taken care of in their later bestowals, right? But they didn't make it. They defaulted. Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one?
In due course, arrangements for the planetary occupation were completed by the mixed commission of 12 on Jerusalem and approved by the Planetary Commission of 70 on Urantia. These plans proposed by the advisory counselors of the light carriers were finally accepted on Salvington. Soon thereafter, the Lebanon broadcasts carried the announcement that Urantia would become the stage whereon the light carriers would execute their 60th Satania experiment designed to amplify and improve the Satania type of the Lebanon light batteries.
So we were the 60th decimal planet in Satania to get this permission to do these things, right? To make the modifications. All right? Here.
Shortly after Urantia was first recognized on the universe broadcast to all Lebanon, it was accorded full universe status. Soon thereafter, it was registered in the records of the minor and the major sector of headquarters, planets, of the super-universe. And before this age was over, Urantia had found entry on the Planetary Life Registry of Uversa.
So, once they implanted life, they automatically put us on the registry of Uversa, where that's where the Ancients of Days is, that this was a planet that's inhabited, right? Inhabitable, I should say. This entire age it was characterized by frequent and violent storms. The early crust of the Earth was in a state of continual flux. Surface cooling alternated with immense lava flows. Nowhere can there be found on the surface of the world anything of this original planetary crust. It has all been mixed up too many times with extruding lavas of deep origins and mixed with the subsequent deposits of the early worldwide oceans. So it's been churned so much, none of this original material is still out there, right? Millie.
Nowhere on the surface of the world will there be found more of the modified remnants of these ancient pre-ocean rocks than in northeastern Canada, around Hudson Bay. This extensive granite elevation is composed of stone belonging to the pre-oceanic ages. These rock layers have been heated, bent, twisted, up, crumpled, and again have they passed through these distorting metamorphic experiences.
That's interesting, isn't it? So if you're a geologist, that would be the place to go, wouldn't it? Canada, around the Hudson Bay area. All right.
My turn.
Yes, your turn. My turn.
And by the way, you're way out of focus, Roger.
Oh boy, I am. Let me change it. The videos are okay. This is just the in-house camera. Let me see if I can get it to focus again. Do my magic. You see my wedding ring there? There we go.
There you
It does that over there, right? There's music that's mine.
go. Okay, throughout those oceanic ages, enormous layers of fossil-free stratified stone were deposited on this ancient ocean bottom. Limestone can form as a result of chemical precipitation. Not all of the older limestone was produced by marine life deposition. Close parenthesis. In none of these ancient rock formations will there be found evidences of life. They contain no fossils unless, by some chance, later deposits of the water ages have become mixed with these older pre-life layers.
Why is that? Because this is before the life implantation, right? So there wouldn't be any animals, anything, fish or anything else to be found there, right? All right.
The Earth's early crust was highly unstable, but mountains were not in process of formation. The planet contracted under gravity pressure as it formed. Mountains are not the result of the collapse of the cooling crust of a contracting sphere, They appear later on as a result of the action of rain, gravity, and erosion.
Interesting. The continental landmass of this era increased until it covered almost 10% of the Earth's surface. Severe earthquakes did not begin until the continental mass of land emerged well above the water. When they once began, they increased in frequency and severity for ages. For millions upon millions of years, earthquakes have diminished, but Urantia still has an average of 15 daily. So it's still moving around, right? All right, Millie, you get the next big number.
850 million years ago, the first real epoch of the stabilization of the Earth's crust began. Most of the heavier metals had settled down toward the center of the globe. The cooling crust had ceased to cave in on such an extensive scale as in former ages. There was established a better balance between the land extrusions and the heavier ocean bed. The flow of the subcrustal lava bed became well nigh worldwide, and this compensated and stabilized fluctuations due to cooling, contracting, and superficial shifting.
Rodney.
Volcanic eruptions and earthquakes continued to diminish in frequency and severity. The atmosphere was clearing of volcanic gases and water vapor, but the percentage of carbon dioxide was still high.
Electric disturbances in the air and in the earth were also decreasing. The lava flows had brought to the surface a mixture of elements which diversified the crust and better insulated the planet from certain space energies. And all of this did much to facilitate the control of terrestrial energy and to regulate its flow, as is disclosed by the functioning of the magnetic poles.
And who do you think controls the magnetic poles?
Pardon me?
Who do you think controls the magnetic poles?
The physical controllers.
The physical controllers and the power generators, right? All right. 800 million years ago witnessed the inauguration of the first great land epoch, the age of increased continental emergence. And this is a picture, okay? First great land, and basically all this was all connected together, okay? And this is the beginning of the separation of the planet, the islands, the land masses of the world, right? And you can see North America, Eurasia, Africa, South America, and of course this part over here would be the Orient and Russia, right? India and Antarctica and Australia, and they were all connected together in one big landmass, right? Interesting. Okay. Since the condensation of the Earth's hydrosphere, first into the world ocean and subsequently into the Pacific Ocean, I don't want to say Pacific for some reason in that. This later body of water should be visualized as then covering 9/10 of the Earth's surface. Meteors falling into the sea accumulated on the ocean bottom, and meteors are, generally speaking, composed of heavy metals. Those falling on the land were largely oxidized, subsequently worn down by erosion, and washed into the ocean basins. Thus the ocean bottom grew increasingly heavy, and added to this was the weight of the body of the water, at some places 10 miles deep. And that's a lot of pressure down there, I can tell you. Millie, would you take the next one?
The increasing downthrust of the Pacific Ocean operated further to upthrust the continental landmass. Europe and Africa began to rise out of the Pacific depths, along with those masses now called Australia, North and South America, and the continent of Antarctica. while the bed of the Pacific Ocean engaged in a further compensatory sinking adjustment. By the end of this period, almost 1/3 of the Earth's surface consisted of land, all in one continental body.
So it was still all connected, right? All right, Rodney.
With this increase in land elevation, the first climatic differences of the planet appear. Land elevation, cosmic clouds, and ocean influences are the chief factors in climatic fluctuation. The backbone of the Asiatic landmass reached a height of almost 9 miles at the time of the maximum land emergence. Had there been much moisture in the air hovering over these highly elevated regions, enormous ice blankets would have formed. The ice age would have arrived long before it did. It was several hundred billions of years before so much land again appeared above water.
Wow.
Long process, right? All right, dear.
750 million
Years ago.
years ago, the first, breaks in the continental landmass began as the great north and south cracking, which later admitted the ocean waters and prepared the way for the westward drift of the continents of North and South America, including Greenland. The long east and west cleavage separated Africa from Europe and severed the land masses of Australia, the Pacific Islands, and the Antarctica from the
Asiatic.
continent.
700 million years ago, Urantia was approaching the ripening of conditions suitable for the support of life. The continental land drift continued. Increasingly, the ocean penetrated the land, as long, finger-like seas, providing those shallow waters and sheltered bays which are so suitable as a habitat for marine life. Millie.
650 million years ago witnessed the further separation of the land masses and, in consequence, a further extension of the continental air seas. And these waters were rapidly attaining that degree of saltiness which was essential to Urantia life.
Okay, so for life to flourish, we had to have the salt content, okay? All right.
It was these seas and their successors that laid down the life records of Urantia, as subsequently discovered in well-preserved stone pages, volume upon volume, as era succeeded era and age grew upon age. These inland seas of olden times were truly the cradle of evolution. And this was presented by a life carrier, a member of the original Urantia Corps, and now a resident observer.
So he knows, because why? He was there.
It's there, and still is.
That's right, still is. And next time we'll go to paper 58, the life establishment on Urantia. So we had kind of a short meeting tonight. But we
It's
made
good.
it.
That's good.
Yes, very good.
It's just hard to imagine. I mean, you know it was a long time ago, but can you comprehend 3 billion, 8 billion years, 8
Yeah.
million years ago?
No, I don't think we can. You know, you think about this though. You think of how ridiculous people believe that the Bible, they calculated back that the Earth was only 4,700
And now,
years
and they
old.
were really opposed to the concept of evolution.
Yeah, it's just.
Well, we know that some of the pyramids and some of the Egyptians were 6,000 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
That's not fiction. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm going to say like the Bible is.
Yeah.
You know, the Bible, the people who study the Bible and say 4,000 just don't watch National Geographic.
Yeah, really. Actually, I have a chart that goes back in time from the beginning of time, and I think it works out to be 8,000 years, something like that. but 8,800 if I remember correctly. But some people still spout out that it's 4,000 years old, you know. So it's just.
And I've always heard 6,000.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I tried to trace. It's a big circular chart. I still got it, but I tried to fill in the Urantia book stuff when it really all these things really happened, and it's just it's too much. You can't do it.
I tried it too.
Yeah.
The tape that I was using to graft it on just got too long to handle.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah, you can't. All right. Well, let's say a little prayer and we'll quit for tonight. Sweetie, would you like to pray for us?
Heavenly God, Heavenly Father, Mother God, we thank you so much for this book. We thank you for giving us long-awaited and sought-after information that is helping us to truly understand the divine plan that God created for us, and the evolutionary periods of Earth and wow, just coming into being. It's magnificent. It's mind-boggling, and we just thank you that we are given this information and can base our thoughts from there. So I just thank you for this opportunity of gathering together each week and growing together in love and spirit of truth, and help us to pass on this wonderful revelation to others as we have the opportunity. It is always in your name, Jesus Christ, my Lord, that we it on that we give praise and thanks. Thankfulness in our hearts. Amen.
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 Thank you for joining Sit Home. Please come see us again.